My staff that was the last to settle down here. Thank you for coming. I'm Ron Gallo, CEO of the Santa Barbara Foundation, and we're delighted to have you here. I believe this is the fourth and the last of these community sessions to introduce our grants programs for this year. My very pleasant duty really today is just to welcome you and to thank you for the work that you do every day. We, as a community foundation, really couldn't accomplish much without our partnership with the nonprofit sector. And as important as your work has been since time immemorial, your work has never been more important now and going forward. This is not a political statement. This is a statement that is about community. We have a real job to do right now at the local level, at the regional level, the national level, to make sure that those things that you've worked so hard for, to advocate for, to put in place, are not going to go away. And your community foundation is going to be there in a variety of ways. Today you will learn about grant programs that you can apply for, of course. But we're also busy doing a couple of other things that are just as important in this context. One is we continue to build philanthropic capital, and we never have needed more of that independent fuel than I think now. And two, we are taking up our game through a strategic planning effort to be more on the front lines of identifying those key determinants of a civil and equitable society. And when there are issues that are raised, we're going to speak out on them. This is an enhanced role, but it's important. And so look for us to be doing that. You will be in key informants in letting us know when things are being raised that maybe the voice of the Community Foundation can be helpful in. We'll continue to be gathering people and keeping people engaged, but we are being vigilant and we're being optimistic because we are convinced at the end of the day that politics is important, very important. But what's even more important is what people do every day together in coming together and solving problems. And if Santa Barbara County can't do that, then no one can. I think we have the tools, we have the people, the energy, the tradition, and the commitment to community as displayed by, again, all of you and what you do. So we are humbled by your work. We're humbled by the challenges that are before us, but we know we're up to it. I am reassured by having one of the greatest boards I've ever worked for, and by far the best staff that I've ever worked with. And that's beginning to have some cred because unfortunately I have to admit I've been doing this for 30 years. So there's a lot of history there and they're magnificent. I'm going to turn it over right now to my partner, birthday girl today. 28, what are you talking about? Jane Campbell.
Good morning, everyone. I always hate to follow the boss because he's so articulate. So, but again, I want to also welcome you and also thank you again for all of the work that you do. We're all in this together in the social sector, and we couldn't do our work without you. And I think the community really more and more is going to come to rely on us as funders and you as our nonprofit partners in the efforts that we all need to make going forward. So as Ron said, I'm Jan Campbell. I'm the Chief Philanthropic Officer here at the Santa Barbara Foundation. I have the privilege of overseeing both the philanthropic services and the community investment functions of our work, the money coming in and the money going out. So it's, I don't know if that's a conflict of interest or not, but anyway. But I also want to echo what Ron said. the professionals here at the Santa Barbara Foundation, every single one of them are really some of the best people I've ever worked with, and I've been working since I was 15, so that's 50 years. So I do the math on that. I also want to acknowledge our trustees. I don't see any trustees today, since several of them came to some of the other sessions, but as Ron said, they've really made a commitment to Santa Barbara County, to make Santa Barbara County a vibrant place to live and work, and they trust us to carry out their vision, and I think that makes us feel really good. So today is all about learning, you learning from us about the opportunities that are available. I know that's why you all are here, and the best way to approach those opportunities and secure funding for your organization. But it's an opportunity for us to learn from you, so please do not leave here with a question unasked or a suggestion unmade, and Barbara's going to tell you how you can do that as well. So I just want to take a minute or two to put things in context for you, give you a little bit of information. So one of our big funders that we work with is the Cavaletto Charities. They've been supporting us since 2003, and every year we put together a report for them, and every year I'm constantly astounded. They fund into our community grants program. And this year in particular, I was really astounded that we had $4.3 million in requests from the community, and we were able to fund $2.3 million in grants. That's a disparity of $2 million. We present this in a report to them. In nearly every single category that we funded in our community grants program, the requests outstripped the funding by 2 to 1. And that's only people that applied to us. So you can imagine what's going on in the community. I don't need to tell you guys that. In our Invest in Youth cycle, which Rubai will tell you about, which was so exciting for us to do, the requests outstripped the grant funding by 3 to 1. And that was with $150,000 of donor funding that we put in. So you can see there was pent-up demand, but also the funding is not there. So it was one of our trustees, Michael Young, who chaired our Core Support for Basic Needs Committee. At that level, we weren't just deciding between B and C level projects, we were deciding between A+ projects. So you guys are doing a great job in all areas, giving us the best possible work, but it's trying to decide between the best and the best and the best, and that's tough. So, on a happier note, with my philanthropic services hat on, and I have a great philanthropic services team, my job is to raise more money for our work, for the best work. So last year's grant pool included $350,000 from living donors. I mentioned the Cavalettos. We had $240,000 from a large institutional investor. And that doesn't include the funds that we add from our legacy field of interest funds, which we're looking at building up much more of those funds. So you can see from this gap that I just mentioned that just like you, and I don't know, we're going to find out how many development people are in the room. I'm sure there's a lot. Development activities and donor relations are ubiquitous. They just never go away. We have to pay attention to that. So we are committed to adding to the grants pool with our donor funds. And I think you'll see a lot more of that. In addition to providing grant funding, the foundation also supports the nonprofit sector by our commitment to supporting nonprofit excellence, which Amy is going to talk to you about. I know many of you have participated in some of the programs that we fund there. We also have made a big investment in helping the sector by supporting endowment building with our agency and endowment program, and I know many of you here participate in that program, and thank you. And if anyone is interested in learning about that, please see me or Jessica Sanchez after the meeting. We'll be happy to tell you about that. But this program includes not only access to our investment management and oversight, as well as planned giving support. We started this program, it's been going for a long time, but over the last 5 or 6 years, we've built this up from a small number of agencies to over 50. And I was really relieved when we sent out the statement that we would live in the market had gone up. So for those of you that haven't gotten it, we had a lot to do with that, I just want to say. Anyway, so ask me about that if you wish. I also want to take this time to acknowledge Kathy Seamus, who I know many of you know. Kathy Seamus is our new North County Director. She's going to be talking about express grants. Kathy's been with the foundation, gosh, it seems like forever. She wears many hats, so she will be still the contact for the express grant program, as well as our consultant on all things, all grants North County. But an amazing woman, one of the hardest working people I've ever seen. So Kathy, you'll hear from Kathy. And now I'm going to call Barbara Anderson, who is our Chief Strategy Officer, to tell you a little bit about communications and our strategic planning process. And again, thank you so much for coming.
Good morning. It's so nice to see a familiar faces. So I'm new to the Santa Barbara Foundation. I've been here for less than a year. And the position is really to focus and align our public policy and advocacy efforts that are, obviously becoming even more significant as we head into the 4 years ahead, but also our communications and our strategic planning work. So as Ron mentioned, we're kicking off formally our strategic planning process as of this month. And the reason why they've allowed me a couple minutes to bring that up is because we really want to hear from you throughout the year. So we'll be sending invitations to focus groups, as well as sending a lot of online surveys. Please, please, please take the time to participate and engage with us, because we're better when we hear from you and we learn from you. So thank you in advance for the time and commitment to that process and making sure that it's valuable for us as well as the community. So that will be a 5-year strategic plan starting in 2018. Everything that we learn, anticipated shifts, we will be communicating with you. Our website will be brand new, hopefully in the middle of this year. The user experience from the grantee level as well as the nonprofit level will be much more enhanced, as well as our donor portals and interfaces, which are key to making sure that we're getting you the resources and identifying and answering your needs as well. So in regards to communications, I think the first most important thing is you're being recorded. So the slide presentations are being recorded. The microphones on the chairs are not on right now, but we will encourage you when there is question and answer to put the microphones on, but they're not on right now. This is to make sure that we can provide a recording for people who weren't able to attend any of the 4 sessions that we had countywide. And we also have another avenue for people who might be hesitant to ask a question in front of a big group. It's #AskSBF, and you can do that through Twitter. We'll be answering your questions. We'll either bring it up today if there's time, but we'll be answering that online regularly. So please also share it with your program officers and grant writers, so when the application time comes in, you obviously can reach out to our community investment team at any time, but our communications team is all hands on deck as well, and we'll be able to answer those questions really rapidly by directing them to their appropriate people and getting back to you as soon as possible. So ask SBF throughout today, as well as in the months ahead. And I also wanted to point out, as part of our kind of earnest effort in strategic planning, as well as evaluation. So we ask you a lot of questions in our grant reports. A lot of that data we are using in real time, but we haven't had the capacity to really look longitudinally and be able to make decisions, adapt in the long term. And with that investment, I want to introduce Rubaidi Estes as Director of Evaluation and Learning this year. So she's been promoted to that position. She's still going to be working with some of you in community investments, but we're thrilled to have her on the team, and we're thrilled to have really this as a prioritization, not only for the foundation, but for all of you in the years ahead. So thank you so much, and I just want to introduce Amy Schneider as the Director of Grant Making and Nonprofit Excellence.
So great to see all these familiar faces and welcome you here today. And I know Jan will join me in thanking you for coming to celebrate her birthday with us today. I'm very excited. We do have the entire team over here in the alcove. They're kind of hiding over there, but we wanted to make space for all of you. So they will be coming up throughout the morning to talk about our grant programs. We will have plenty of time. We're going to close this out probably around 11:30 and have lots of time for questions and one-on-one with each of you to talk about your projects. But I'd like to start out by just kind of getting an idea of who's in the room and give you an opportunity to look around and see who is represented sector-wise and also in your roles. So if you could humor me and just raise your hand if you are working in the areas of education or youth development. Okay, lots of you. All right, and then within education, are any of you in early care or child care centers? Okay, this side of the room, great. What about health and human services? always a good group. Arts and culture. Wow, all right. And then people working in the environment. And how about the animal groups? A couple animal groups, great. Okay, so how many of you would self-identify as a grant writer or professional development, fund development person? Yeah, I know. So, and then how many of those people, how many of you are executive directors for your organizations? Yeah, you've got closet full of hats. And then how many of you are volunteers or board members for your organizations? You're the ED volunteer and the grant. All right, thank you. That gives us a good idea of who we have here. For the next 45 minutes, we're going to be talking about our 2017 community grant opportunities and our initiatives. And our process in developing this portfolio every year is really speaks to what Barbara was talking about, learning. We listen to what you've been saying over the last couple of years. We look at our donor interests. We see how that all aligns with our strategic objectives. And this last year, well, for 2017, what that really spoke to for us is just remaining consistent and providing essentially the same programming that we provided in 2016. So for those of you that were here last year and went through our process last year, you're going to hear a lot of the same information, and hopefully you will get some new tips and meet some folks. And won't be sorry that you came, but from our standpoint, we're really excited to have that level of consistency and be able to bring back some of the programs that really were, that you all shared with us were really important to your work. So we're happy about that. As Barbara mentioned, with our strategic planning process, we will be evolving our programs going forward, and we look forward to hearing from you again to help us with where we will be going with that. I do want to say that we're going to be giving a lot of important and detailed information about this. It's not the most exciting and titillating information you've probably ever heard. We've put you in really uncomfortable chairs and provided caffeine to help you get through the morning. But, you know, hopefully there's going to be a lot here that is relevant to your organization. There's certainly going to be stuff that's just not relevant to you, and you can check out at that point, but check back in because we do hope that you all will go away today with some good information that's going to help you engage with us going forward. So we're going to come back to this, but I wanted to speak to something Jan mentioned, which is our work with nonprofit excellence. And this is one way, other than our grant making, that we engage with you all and support you and strengthen the sector. We invest in nonprofit excellence to help you develop your board and staff leadership, to make sure that you have the trainings and technical assistance you need to forward your work and support your staff and your volunteers. And to do this, we partner with some key providers of services across our county, including groups like Leading from Within and their leadership programs across the county. We support the Fund for Santa Barbara and their series of workshops and technical assistance that they provide in areas such as strategic planning and fundraising and organizational assessment and development. And then we also are a big supporter of the Nonprofit Resource Network, NPRN. And I hope that all of you are members of NPRN. They've evolved quite a bit over the last couple of years based on user feedback. And in fact, in 2017, they're going to be adding a number of new features that I think are going to be really exciting, including a consultant directory where you can go and try to find consultants, look at best practices on how to engage a consultant. They're also going to be putting together a grants center, which is a downloadable calendar is what I understand, where you can look at more than 30 funders across the county and when their deadlines are and what their criteria are, kind of have it all in one place. The RIGHT team, which I think I saw Heather here, was instrumental in putting that tool together, so we're excited to see that up on NPRN. And let's see, there was a third thing. Oh, they have a new volunteer match thing that's going to be up where you can post your opportunities and volunteers can hopefully find you through there. In addition to the series of webinars that they put on, so just a great resource that we hope you all find valuable. What's not up here, we have a conference coming up, the Partnership for Excellence, on April 13th. Hopefully you all have attended and plan to attend. It's a great day for learning and networking with your colleagues and funders and other community activists. And that will be, registration for that will be up on NPRN soon. We are also pleased to sponsor the first nonprofit North County Forum back in October, which was highly successful, and there's a committee already meeting to put together what's next for 2017. So I would encourage you to check our website often for opportunities, and I also want just to point out that Gia Gil-Reynoso, who will be up here in a little bit, is our lead staff on these efforts, and so she and I are always available to answer questions on our work in nonprofit excellence. Okay, so what I want to do now is just provide an overview of who can apply, what you can apply for, what you cannot apply for, and then I'll be introducing members of the team to talk about the specific programs. As far as eligibility, it's really straightforward. There's 3 criteria. I'm sure all of you meet them. We support 501c3 tax-exempt organizations. If you do not have your 501c3, you can still apply. You just find someone who will sponsor you, a fiscal sponsor. We have information on our website on our eligibility criteria and frequently asked questions that there's specific instructions if you are using a fiscal sponsor, so you'll want to take a look at those. We're a community-wide, county-wide foundation, so we support organizations that serve Santa Barbara County residents, and then we support organizations that do not discriminate in their delivery of programs and services. I know there are some public entities here. There's some libraries and people representing the schools and school districts. There is also information on our website that you'll want to check out because we have some specific criteria around how you apply and what avenue you apply through. So if you are a public entity, a library, school, park group, you'll want to check that out or talk to any of us. We can answer your questions. All right, so we're going to be talking in a minute about the types of funding that the foundation offers. Capital grants, scholarships, general operating support, program support. There are a number of things that across the board we do not support, and I wanted to just highlight those here. We do not make grants directly to individuals. We will not pay down your mortgage. We do not put dollars directly into your endowment, although we certainly encourage people to establish endowments and will support you in those efforts and also have opportunities to house those at the foundation if that's of interest. We do not support one-time events, your fundraisers. We don't typically underwrite events. And we do not reimburse for activities or purchases made prior to the grant being awarded. And then lastly, we will not fund activities that influence legislation and or elections, but I hope you all are aware that there are permissible activities, educational and advocacy activities that we can support and that you can be engaged in, and we encourage you. There are resources at the Fund for Santa Barbara and online to help you know what is permissible by law and through the IRS. Okay. So, just quickly, I want to clarify that this list applies to the grant programs we're going to be talking about today, our community grant programs. The foundation does employ other tools out in the community, and there are things like a loan program where we might support someone's mortgage. We do have a student aid program where we make grants directly to individuals. But again, so when we're talking about the programs today, this is what this list applies to. All right. So we're going to be talking about these programs. These are 8 responsive grant programs. I think you all are aware that responsive means that we publicly put up our guidelines, we invite you to apply, you take a look at the criteria, and if you find that you're a match, you can go ahead and submit an application. Each of these programs has its own criteria, its own eligibility criteria, its own deadlines. So even though you're going to hear a lot of information about them today, of course, when you go back and are getting ready to apply, you're going to download the guidelines and read those carefully and look at the submission instructions and all of that to ensure that you have a successful application. These also have their own review processes. Some are internal staff reviews, some engage our trustees and community members for their expertise. The idea for all of our grant review processes is to cultivate the best information and thinking and a diversity of perspectives to make sure that we're making the best decisions and are informing all of our collective learning and work. So with all of these programs, there are no restrictions on how many of these you apply to. Clearly you have to read the criteria and meet those, but for example, you could apply for an express grant and a couple months later have a capital need and apply through the capital program. You might be a child care center and are eligible for child care scholarships, et cetera, et cetera. So there are no restrictions on how many of these you apply to. There is a restriction on how often you apply. You can only apply to each of these once in a calendar year. And for many of them, take core support for basic needs, that deadline's in March. There's one deadline a year. You either apply or you don't apply. That's it. But I think most of you are aware that our express grant programs, which are our smaller grants, have monthly deadlines. So there are 10 opportunities during the year to apply. That doesn't mean you get to apply 10 times. That means you still have one opportunity to apply. Capital and LEAP also have multiple grant cycles, and the purpose for that really is to give you the flexibility in your planning and just really come to us when you have a need and when the timing is right for your project. So again, the rule is you can apply once to each of these in a 12-month period. If you apply, say, in November to Express and receive a grant, you don't have to wait a full 12 months to apply again. You could come back in February and apply again. It's really the end of the calendar year is the end of our grant year, and then we start over. Okay. There is an exception to that rule. If your agency is acting as the fiscal sponsor for another project, we don't want to penalize you for that. So you may apply on behalf of that project and also apply on your own, on behalf of your own agency's needs. And the same goes for if you are working in a community collaborative with a number of different agencies and your organization is going to be the applicant on behalf of the collaborative. Again, you can apply on behalf of the collaborative and also on behalf of your own needs. And we do have a definition for what a community collaborative is, so if you find yourself in that situation, you'll want to talk with us. Okay. Lastly, Jan mentioned, and it goes without saying, these are competitive programs, and those numbers sound bleak, and we're not sharing those numbers to bum you out. We really just want to encourage you to be strategic. You all have limited resources with your time, and encourage you to come and talk to us and help you determine what the best approach might be and when you might have the best success with any of these programs. So I encourage you to do that. We're all available to you, and we are now going to introduce the programs, and if anyone has a burning question, I'm happy to take that now. And Denise, I will just, and then I do want to just remind you, we will have at least half an hour to 45 minutes at the end to stay and talk with you. But yes, Denise, go ahead.
Can the organization apply for both core support and the Invest in Youth grants?
Yes. The question was, can you apply for core support and Invest in Youth? And Rubari will touch on Invest in Youth, but in the past, those are our largest grant programs and the largest dollar amounts per grant. And so last year we said, you know what, you need to choose because we have limited resources. We want to give everyone an opportunity. But that's no longer the case. And there are very few of you, I will just say, that will be in that situation. Really what we're looking at is mission alignment with you're either a core support, a basic needs like safety net provider, food, shelter, healthcare, or you're a youth serving organization. There's very few of you who really truly fit both those definitions. But if you do, you can apply to both of those programs. Okay, with that, I'm going to introduce Kathy Seamus. Jan mentioned that Kathy is our new North County Director, and for those of you who haven't seen our new headquarters up in Santa Maria, if you're ever up there, please visit Kathy and the other folks in that office. And we're just thrilled that Kathy's going to continue leading our Express Grant program and also advise us on all of our programs. So, Kathy.
So good morning. As Amy mentioned, I'm Kathy Seamus. I have the good fortune of being able to oversee the Express Grant program as well as some other duties in North County. So today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the Express Grant Program and the purpose of this program. So Ron alluded a few minutes ago to the fact that you're our partners in the community, and I really truly believe that through the Express Grant and through the excellence programs, the leadership programs, and the different partnerships that Amy talked about earlier, these are some of our opportunities to really work with you and make you stronger and build capacity for your organizations. So the purpose of the Express Grant Program is to provide awards with a short period of review that really are aimed at strengthening the organizational and programmatic capacity and effectiveness of your organizations. You know, when you're strong and you have strong leadership, you have sound organizations, you have thoughtful strategy, you have compelling communications, you're a much more effective organization. So we aim to strengthen your organization in support of your mission and your programmatic outcomes. So the eligibility for our program is that any agency that is serving all regions of the county can apply for an Express Grant. Again, this year, or I should say again this year, that also includes the San Ynez Valley and it includes Los Alamos. Your organization, as Amy mentioned, is allowed to submit one application. Even though we have 10 application periods throughout the year, your organization is allowed to just apply once. If you look at the types of funding, we have three broad areas where we will fund. In the organization and development capacity building area, let me just give you a few examples. We're talking about strategic planning, we're talking about board development, we're talking about organizational program assessment and evaluation. If you happen to have leadership succession, any of that type of thing going on, if you have, if you want to explore some type of strategic alliance, these are all things that are eligible under the organizational development and capacity building. One other thing that I'll mention is system support and enhancements. And I just want to clarify, and Amy, I think, will talk about this a little bit more when she's talking about the Capital Improvement Grant Program. But when we're talking about in the Express Grant Program, what we're talking about is if you need to hire expertise to come put some program, to look at your hardware, to look at your infrastructure, and you need some kind of expertise to help you with that, you would apply through this program. If it's hardware, you're going to apply through the Capital Improvement Program. And if you ever have any questions on that, Amy and I can help you sort that out. Under defined projects, we're talking about program design or program piloting. We're talking about strategic marketing, communication, or donor development efforts. I often talk with organizations and they say, gosh, you know, we just really need to hire a marketing person. You know, here's your opportunity. If you need expertise to do some of that, this is where you can apply for a grant to help support that. And last, we have board or staff or board development and training. This also includes volunteers. I know a lot of you organizations are volunteer run, but it includes coaching, it includes training, conferences, workshops. All of those are eligible requests under the Express Grant Program. The only thing that isn't eligible is any kind of a request, a tuition request for the Leading From Within. As Amy spoke about our partnership earlier with the Leading From Within programs, we already support their scholarship opportunities through our partnership with them. Our grant amount is up to $5,000. You can ask for less, but the maximum is $5,000, and you can apply. And the application period is 1 year from the date of your award date, so you have 1 year to expend those funds. I want to just mention, going back to the types of funding, that although I just mentioned, I gave you a bunch of examples, there are certainly other things that fit under this. And I would just encourage you to call me if you have some type of idea, some type of proposal, to give me a call, and I can certainly talk to you about the suitability of what you're requesting. As far as deadlines, yes, we do have 10 application periods. The first Monday of every month, February through November. Those are our application deadlines. Again, you can apply once. I will just tell you there's, it's a competitive program, and it's competitive just by virtue of the number of applications that we receive throughout the year. But it's also competitive each month within the pool, and I am just sharing this with everybody. So, all of our sessions, and I'm not telling you to go out and apply during the summer months. The summer months are a little bit slow, and we've recommended that out a bit. So, just a hint. And I just wanted to mention that if you apply and you miss the deadline, your application will automatically roll and it will be considered in this following month's pool. If you miss the deadline for November, that is our final deadline for the year, and you're just out of luck for the year. So try to get them in before that. Amy talked about the different types of review that we have for the programs. On the Express Grant program, it is a staff review so that we can actually have that quick turnaround. So you should have some type of a decision within 8 weeks of the application deadline. One of the things that we don't have on the sheet, on the screen, that I just wanted to share with you is that actually on the website, if you go under the Express Grant information, you're going to find the application, you're going to find the guidelines, and then you're going to find a second or third sheet, I should say, that's called Helpful Tips. And I have furnished that because this is a very competitive program. And so we're trying to give you a little bit of information to help you. I encourage you to read that before you do submit an application. There's additional examples under the types of funding, and I would just share with you that on the Express Grants, those that really have the best opportunity or funding are those that really explain the need. We really explain the need. We want to hear about your organizational readiness and your organization's commitment to whatever it is that you're proposing. And the last thing on that helpful tip sheet that you'll find is a sample budget. So we want to make sure that you submit a thoughtfully prepared budget. I know oftentimes there are budget questions. If your question isn't answered when you look at that sample, please call me. I'm happy to walk through the budget portion with you. That's not a problem. And I think with that, that's it. You can ask me questions at the end. My contact information is on the screen. I do work out of the Santa Maria, North County headquarters office, but I'm often in Santa Barbara. I'm happy to meet with you down here. If you want to come to North County and see our lovely new office, you're welcome to meet with me up there. I'm available over the phone and via email. So with that, I'm going to ask Amy to come back up and turn the program back to her.
Okay, so you should all still be listening because these two programs are, I would think everyone in this room is eligible for both Express and Capital. I want to say just one thing about Express. Kathy mentioned the summer month. Yeah, you all go on vacation. We didn't get a lot of applications June, July, August. And I would also say that it's probably not a great idea to wait till November. We got slammed in November. So I think people at the end of the year are like, oh crap, I forgot to submit an Express grant to the Santa Barbara Foundation. So you all submitted in November. So that was a tough month for us. Yes.
She mentioned San Ynez Valley. Do we still go through the Valley Foundation, or?
No, thank you for asking that question. No, the Santa Barbara Foundation has taken back our Express Grants program. We still have a partnership with them, but no, all of countywide, everyone now comes through the Santa Barbara Foundation. Thanks for asking. Okay. Capital improvement. I think most of you are aware that the foundation has an 80+ year history in supporting the capital needs of the nonprofit sector. We do see this as a really important tool to support you in your effectiveness and in your efficiency of your operations. And we know that with limited resources, those dollars are going to tend to go towards programming and not to fixing your roof or getting that computer that you've needed for the last 7 years, that sort of thing. So that's the reason we offer this. It was highly successful this last year, and so we're pleased to be offering it again. Like Express, as I said, this is open to any nonprofit organization, all types and sizes and sectors. We found this last year that the type of funding has tended to fall into these 4 general categories. The first being facility improvements. I won't point you out, but we did everything from painting bathrooms to repairing flooring to repairing and replacing roofs to putting in HVAC systems, ADA compliance issues. I mean, it kind of ran the gamut. I will say that if you don't own your property, we want to improve your facility for your organization and not your landlord, so we will be looking for a relatively long-term lease, kind of measure it with the life of the item that you're looking at enhancing or replacing. The second type of funding is around information technology, and I'm glad Kathy brought that up. We're really in the capital program talking about purchasing the stuff. Not developing the plan that you can go through Express. So if you have a plan and you're ready to buy the hardware, the software, the servers, all of that, that's where you would come here. Vehicles, pretty self-explanatory. We will entertain requests for vehicles. And then program specific was a category we had to kind of add because there were some pretty significant specialized equipment that we ended up looking at and supporting. And a couple examples were there was some communications equipment for live streaming, educational content. There was a theater that needed some handheld radios for kind of the behind the scenes work. Things like that. I can't think of more examples, but really, these are pretty big ticket items. What's not considered capital are your consumable program supplies and office supplies. These are capital assets of your organization. As far as priorities, similar to Express, we're looking at your planning and the demonstrated need for your project. We want to kind of hear what kind of process your organization went through to prioritize this as a need at this time. And how this item will positively impact either the delivery of your programs or the efficiencies of your operations. We want to see just kind of where it fits in with your overall planning. If you have a deferred maintenance plan that's been kind of growing over the years, how does that list get developed and why is this item at the top at this point? The grant amount is up to $10,000. For some projects, this is going to cover the full amount of the project. For some larger projects, this is just going to be a piece. We understand that you will need to go out and leverage those dollars. With others, there are 3 deadlines. These are also on our website. Again, you can apply once during the year. This program, like Express, also has an internal staff review, so we're able to turn these around relatively quickly. So we'd like to get you a decision within 8 weeks of the deadline of when you submitted it. Okay, I think that's it for capital. I'm going to introduce Rubai Estes. Rubai, as you heard, is our new Director of Evaluation and Learning. We are thrilled to have her in community investment still, working primarily with programs and grants around youth and our youngest children. Rubai?
Good morning. I'm going to be covering 3 programs, but as there's a number of you in youth development and early child, I will be going through them thoroughly. So, take a breath. Water, coffee in the back. So the William and Lottie Daniel Fund Scholarships has been around for a while. Many of you in here have applied for these grants. The application and the guidelines are online as of now. These grants are for licensed nonprofit child care providers, and there's a number of eligibility requirements by the donor. They're rather extensive, so I would recommend going through the guidelines, downloading them, and then giving me a ring about a good fit and possibly with questions as well. The programs are not only for the license, but they have to already be serving economically disadvantaged families. This means that you already have an adopted fee scale, so you already have a scholarship mechanism built in. These scholarship funds can be used to expand on your existing child care slots or fund the ones that you already have. And because the purpose of the grants are for working parents, the centers have to be open 8 to 5, so regular working hours, and they cannot be closed more than 2 weeks out of the year. We understand that we got a lot of feedback last year, and we did incorporate those into the grant program. So such as after-school programs, because this is for 0 to 12-year-olds, can only be in session when school is not, so we will accommodate those. For centers, for children that they're caring for from families in transition, foster youth, we understand these scholarships may need to be transferred. I ask that you give me a ring so I have an understanding of kind of the volatility in this enrollment, and if there's a trend, it's just more learning for us. We understand that TK needs to be incorporated into the school age group, and of course with Prop 58 you'll only see one new question this year, and that is asking you on how you're accommodating clients with different language needs. So that's about it. Again, it's for 0 to 12. The deadline is March 13th. The scholarship amount does vary. Most of you know the early child cost for infant care is dramatically larger than after-school programming. So it does vary according to that. In the last 3 years, I did notice that we had an increase of about $300,000 in requests, about 150% of the scholarship requests that we've had in the past years. So we do attempt to award all qualified centers, but the numbers of scholarships as a result may be less for every agency. So you may see that. This also is an internal process, but it does have external advisors. And so it is about an 8-week turnaround. So it's a deadline in March, and we hope to be able to send the awards out in May so you can accommodate your fall group, if not summer. The next one is an early care and education grant program. This was available to you last year. It's very similar. In fact, it's one and the same as last year's program. It's a little later in the year, offset off of Daniel. And I think one difference is we saw an amazing group of applicants. Our committee was completely blown away by it, so we've accommodated those trends, but otherwise it is the same grant program. This is for nonprofit early care and education programs for children between the ages of 0 to 6. This will be up on the website by the end of February, but it's not due till May, so plenty of time. It also includes childcare and family support services that allow for the success of the early care providers. And I can explain more with the individual grant programs, and again after this, or as a group. I also do send out notifications, so don't worry about missing when this is online. We do have our ears to the ground with policy shifts, state budget, federal policy, and funding streams. So we are doing our best to see where we can align with the community priorities that have been identified by the community-wide networks. So you will see those over and over again, and I'll speak to that very soon. So professional leadership development funding is not only for individuals, it can be for the entire agency, it can be for community-wide learning opportunity. Strengthening families, this is a partnership with Strengthening Families Alignment in the county. A lot of you are in the groups already. This focuses on parent as the first educator in the relationship with the teacher in the classroom. This piece is the one I'm referring to primarily as our new priority in 2017, which is Protective Factors Framework. If you're not familiar with it, Strategies is providing an introduction to this on the 7th of February, and I'll have that information up and out. But this is the new priority in 2017 because this is a priority identified by the county, and these protective factors will enable you to be a competitive application. Deadline is May 8th. This is also an internal process, but with community advisors again. So we hope to award in June, and I think the grant amount goes up to $20,000. One quick thing, this is a program grant, so you can build in site costs, portions of FTEs, release time, transportation, so very programmatic type of expenses. Lastly, many of you know we had a very successful and large Invest in Youth grant program last year. We had donors who had contributed to this program. I've had a large committee and a very extensive process. And we also gathered feedback, in fact, starting in one of the sessions here last year, that the most helpful time of year would be an award in spring to be able to accommodate the academic school year. And so we have moved the cycle to early 2018. And it'll also give us time to gather data, evaluate the programs that are awarded very late in 2016. I realize for us it's dramatic, for you it falls in your next fiscal year. So it's not hopefully as dramatic. We also look forward to seeing you come in for the other grant programs, and you know an extensive number of those this year again. But in 2017, the work around Invest in Youth does continue. So I will be reaching out to you, either in convening in groups and or individually, to really inform our 2018 cycle, assess the needs amongst the groups that are serving our youth and the most vulnerable of young people. And so if you have not heard about the Invest in Youth program, or we haven't met at some point, I'd love for you to reach out today. Otherwise, I'll be definitely reaching out.
Is there a slide for?
Invest in Youth?
Yeah.
No, so the grant program will open in 2018 for award in spring 2018. So we tried to keep it.
Okay.
Yeah,
So you actually pushed it forward, not back.
we pushed it forward, correct, but
Okay.
back starting the calendar year for spring award
Right.
for school year. Okay, yeah. Again, thank you for being patient with me on this one. Next we have PA Gil Reynoso. She'll be talking about core support for basic needs.
Hi and welcome. My name is Bianca Reynoso. I'm the Community Investment Officer for Health and Human Services. And as Amy said, I also support our nonprofit excellence programming. I want to start by saying that the Santa Barbara Foundation really recognizes the importance of meeting basic human needs in terms of food, shelter, and health care. And we really value the critical work of all health and human service agencies. Core support for basic needs has been among the highest priorities for the Santa Barbara Foundation for nearly a decade now. And we continue to hear from our nonprofit agencies of the ongoing demand and the challenges that organizations are challenged with in these times of high need. And so for this reason, the Core Support for Basic Needs Grant Program, the criteria and the priorities remain consistent as last year. So when you go and download the application, you will note that some of the application questions have been modified or revised. And I think many of you Health and Human Service agencies will also be happy to see that the Core Support data sheet has been simplified for some of your feedback. So please take a close look at that as well. I want to define core support for basic needs, and the way we define core support, it's really funding that can be used for operating expenses and or for costs that are related to sustaining or expanding the service or the program that is directly addressing food, shelter, or health care. These grants are intended for agencies that are doing a couple of different things. But before I go into that, I want to let you know what these grants are not for. So these grants are not for organizations that are not providing direct food, shelter, or health care. They are not for agencies that are providing solely case management, information and referral services, for clothing, or for transportation. So I hope that gives you a really clear distinction of what is and what is not eligible under this grant program. The foundation wants to give priority to agencies that are doing a couple of different things, 4 different things that we're looking at. And first of all, we're looking at agencies that are demonstrating an increased or sustained demand for providing that basic needs service. We're looking at agencies that are taking steps to sustain the capacity to address basic needs. And then thirdly, we want to identify agencies that within themselves are identifying approaches to poverty that are helping develop long-term self-sufficiency within the program recipients. And then lastly, the foundation wants to award agencies that are financially viable, that are well managed, and that are operating effective programs. So please take a look at the guidelines and feel free to reach out to me as well. The grant amount for a core support grant is $50,000, and the grant period is up to 1 year from the award date. Important deadlines to keep in mind are March 20th, when the application is due, and we hope to award funds towards the beginning of July. That's my goal. So you may know that in looking at the different deadlines, the grant review cycle for a core support grant is a little bit longer than some of the other grant programs, and that's primarily for 2 reasons. First of all, it involves a review committee that consists of about 13-ish members. And then secondly, there's also an organizational interview that's part of the review process.
And so for those 2 reasons, that expands the timeline for us making those decisions. Overall, we believe that the process for core support review is really very community-driven. As Amy mentioned earlier, this committee involves a couple of different members. It involves Santa Barbara Foundation trustees, Santa Barbara Foundation staff, and then community experts who come together to vet the proposals and then make the final recommendation to the Santa Barbara Foundation Board of Trustees. That's the Core Support for Basic Needs grant program. Another grant opportunity I want to briefly mention is the Tri-Counties Blood Bank Fund. And this program focus is really very specific because it focuses on research and education grants. Again, very program specific, so please take a look at those guidelines. The deadline for the Tri-Counties Blood Bank Fund is July 20th. And let's see, that's all in terms of the grant programs. Lastly, I just want to say that I look forward to working with you or continuing to work with you. If we have not yet had the opportunity to connect, I would love to sit down with you, learn more about your agency and the projects that you're working with. My name again is Diego Reynoso, and I'm more than available to connect by phone or email, so please reach out to me. And with that said, I will now introduce to you our Senior Directors of Community Investment, Sharon Main and Feline Wiggins.
Thank you, PA. And good morning, everybody. I'm Feline Wiggins. I'm your Senior Director of Community Investments here at the Foundation, and Sharon and I both hold that role. And just to kind of give some context for it, what we do is we work in the space of developing community ideas. And so we try to listen to what's happening out there, listen to you, listen in other quarters, and bring together those ideas that can really translate into some deep work in the community. We incorporate our donor interests as well as those conversations and other things that are happening out there that can often be very big change issues or that kind of thing. So, the Foundation does have a couple of initiatives going on right now to really address some critical issues and community challenges. Our primary ones are what we call our LEAF initiative, which Sharon's going to share with you about that, but it relates to our landscapes, ecosystems, agriculture, and food systems, so that's the LEAF acronym. And I'm working on the area of aging and seniors in focusing on our community caregiving initiative, and that is really to help strengthen our safety net for our elders, which is our family caregivers. So we support this type of work in 2 ways, 2 different kinds of grants. First is our direct investments, where we will make a grant, not going through a competitive process, but generally to look at an issue and go deeper, whether that's related to planning, whether it's related to research, or to developing community partnerships around issues. So, so that's one way to access some resources to look at some bigger ideas. The other way is that once we've focused on an issue, we have responsive grant programs that will help to build the capacity and seed projects that will fulfill the goals of this deep work. So within both initiatives, there are responsive grant programs as well. So our website does have information. We encourage you to check it out and learn more about that. But we're going to touch on the grant opportunities, the responsive grant opportunities in our initiatives. And Sharon's going to lead off with the LEAF initiative.
Thank you, Feline.
Oh, we're way ahead. Okay, there we go. Okay, good. Oh, let's just jump around a little bit.
Hi, how many of you heard of the LEAF initiative? We talked about it last year. Yay! I'm so glad to know it's getting out there. I know we didn't have a lot of people identify as environmental organizations, but I just really want to point out LEAF is really a broader comprehensive approach to building healthy and resilient communities, and that really touches on everything. And as Feline said, that's everything from preserving our landscapes to making sure we have healthy ecosystems that protect us as well as nature, and food systems, and looking at how we get our nourishment and what sustains our community. So you may tune out to think I'm not an environmental group, but there are many of you that I think have opportunity here within the LEAF initiative. So whether you're a food service agency or whether you're in social services or some other work, I think that there is going to be a relationship. So I hope you keep an eye on LEAF as we go forward. LEAF really has two prongs. One is a community planning process. So we're working on a conservation blueprint with our partners, the Land Trust for Santa Barbara County and the Kachuma Resource Conservation District. And that's a comprehensive mapping process that we're putting together with data about the county, and that will be released later this year. So I'm not going to spend much time on that one. The other one is our food action plan, which we've worked with our community partners and our lead partners, which is the Food Bank of Santa Barbara County and the Community Environmental Council, as well as our funding partner at the time, which was Orville Foundation and the LEAF Initiative. So we all work together with hundreds of community participants and volunteers to create a food action plan. It really took us over almost about 2 years. And as you came in, many of you saw there was the executive summary of the food action plan. I hope you've looked at it and seen it. We also have a full version of this, which is about a 100-page report on our website as well as the food action plan website. So there were some little cards, that food action plan cards, which give both of those website locations. So I really encourage you to dig in, and you'll see why in our priorities, why I'm saying this right now. So the other prong of our LEAF initiative is our responsive grant programs, and these really go to help support the backbone or the vision of LEAF. It also helps build capacity in our community as these plans roll out. So really the first, and really as I said earlier, this is any nonprofit organization is eligible for this, and I hope many of you see yourselves in some of these opportunities. First, we're talking about opportunities in restoration, and this is really typical restoration projects on the land. Just to give you some examples of what we funded in the past, we did an oak woodland project out at Coal Oil Point Reserve in Goleta. We helped revitalize a trail in Waller Park in Santa Maria, and we helped with a native seed bank on the island. So really, Santa Barbara County encompasses even our channel and the islands. The second is conservation projects. This is really looking at ways of preserving the land for either agriculture or conservation purposes. We actually have supported conservation easements to help close those deals on farms and ag lands in Lompoc, San Ynez Valley, and Cuyama. We also have looked at a steelhead restoration project, and we're helping to develop a better oil spill response with our local nonprofit partners. So in the future, if that happens again, we have more hands on the ground to help respond. Under pilot projects, best practices in agriculture, fisheries, and the food systems. This is an area where we've been looking at opportunities to really experiment with the ideas that are coming out of the food action plan, but also look at really understanding the meaning of what the food system really is. We've done everything from help put in small community kitchens in churches and community groups. We just helped expand or working with Lompoc on expanding their farmers market and increasing the capacity of their residents to have access to healthy food through a one-to-one match or a market match program for their EBT or food stamp programs. And we're also looking at something really large, which is a carbon farming project on a big ranch in the valley, which was using compost to help sequester carbon and improve the soil quality of that ranch. So really a range of opportunities. This year, in 2017, our priority will be on projects that are aligning with the Food Action Plan. Our executive team, our partners are creating the next steps right now, so we'll have opportunities for you to engage and dig deeper into impact groups. But if any of you are see yourself aligning with the Food Action Plan, again, why I'd like you to look at this and see what those priorities and goals are, there may be opportunity for grant programs there. We really would like an opportunity to help you build capacity, build networks, to strengthen really the core of what the food system is. So we will be having the criteria for this coming out. Let's see, the grants are due in July, so probably around May we'll have the criteria finalized, and I'll help you understand how to dig deeper into the Food Action Plan related work. The grants range from $2,500 to $20,000. It's a small grants program. I encourage you to be realistic and not to overshoot. Most of the grants have averaged $10,000, $15,000. So we're, generally on the high side. They have to be pretty compelling with a lot of great triggers. Again, 2 deadlines, July and October. I encourage you to contact me. I do want to point out, even though the priority is on alignment with the Food Action Plan, there still are other opportunities, potentially depending on what we get in on some of the conservation projects. So if you are doing that kind of work, please call me. Let's talk about it, just to make sure that we're fitting in and that we're aligning. So I'm going to pass it over to Colleen to talk about Community Caregiving Initiative.
Thank you, Chairman. So I hope that many of you have heard about our work around aging and what we're hoping to do to strengthen our safety net for our seniors. And, you know, part of this is really driven off the fact that the demographics of our society are changing. That's reflected here in Santa Barbara County. And, you know, our safety net for our seniors is really our family caregivers, which oftentimes is many of us in the room. So if you have been in that situation, you can appreciate how challenging it is to try to pull together resources for your loved one and how difficult that can be. And so we're working to develop systems that will align so that our caregivers can find the resources they need and get the resources that they need for their loved one as well as themselves personally, and strengthen their own ability to be able to care for their loved one, because at the end of the day, really, we as family caregivers are the safety net for our loved ones. So the foundation is really looking at this, and last year we weren't really in a position to open up the grant opportunities. We had some projects that were based on some really great work that was going on in the community, and so we weren't able to bring on some new projects. This year that's changing. So the process is going to be open to any organization that is working with family caregivers, and we're going to be having 3 types of work that we're going to be looking for. The first one is how do we integrate our services for caregivers? So this is how do we bring together our providers and our organizations that are social services and even legal or other types of services that support caregivers, and create those synergies and those relationships that will help strengthen our system so that we can be a better service to our families. So really this is work that is collaborative and increases referrals among organizations and increases communication. The second type of work is for work that will strengthen caregivers' ability to care. So it might be in the areas of competence and capacity in developing skills and abilities to care for their loved one. As you probably know, if you've been in the situation, you know, as a caregiver, you're asked to do a lot of tasks, including complex medical care that you may not be trained for. And so how can we get the kind of services and information in the hands of the caregivers that will allow them to do that type of work? So we're looking for work in that regard. And just to provide you with some examples in these areas, under the first category of integration of services, SANSOM and the Alzheimer's Association have been working together to develop cross-referrals, where when a patient is diagnosed with Alzheimer's, that caregiver is automatically identified and sent a referral through the electronic health records to the Alzheimer's Association, who then reach out proactively. So it's not like, oh great, here's your diagnosis, go have a nice life. You get actually to be able to, you know, receive the services and the acknowledgement and recognition that you're now part of the team and we're here to support you. So that's one way that a current grantee is doing it. Another opportunity, or another project is really working on this caregiver competency, and that's Marion Hospital. And they have identified caregivers within their healthcare system, and so they are, when the caregiver is identified, that person gets training on powerful tools for caregivers, they get a badge, they get training on medical conditions so that they can advocate with the doctors and be part of the care decisions that impact their loved ones. So that really addresses the skill sets and the self-identification within the system. So those are a couple of the projects that are going on now, but we're still open for other opportunities that might emerge in this regard. Again, this is really kind of trying to focus on the senior population. But one of the other things that's really exciting for this year is that, you know, as this caregiving issue has started bubbling, and it is bubbling nationally as well as locally, there has been an increased awareness happening. And so some of the organizations that serve this population are seeing increased demand. So what we want to do this year is to help those organizations that need assistance in planning for capacity or figuring out, you know, now how do I balance the needs that I'm seeing in my organization? How do we put those plans together? We are open to providing support for that. We're also looking at a whole new way of evaluating our long-term care safety net. And so in that regard, we're launching, actually today is the launch day for our new tools that will help us to develop an understanding of how our caregivers are changing over time, and and how our services are helping to support them. We encourage any organization that is working with family caregivers serving seniors to participate in this. There is no cost, and for those that are participating, we anticipate having dollars available to help you build your capacity for this area of research. Part of this is because this work is attracting national attention and there is interest in it, and as a result, they're looking for results. So Santa Barbara County is being looked at as a place where there's a lot of new innovation happening in this area that can inform not only our region, but our national conversation. So it's a pretty exciting time to be part of this, and we really want to bring along any organization that is working with family caregivers in this way. So anyway, grant amount awards, depending on the type of work that you're doing, up to $75,000. Again, that's the maximum. I anticipate there will be kind of a range of grants with these new opportunities this year, and the deadline will be in September, so in fourth quarter, and we anticipate making awards probably next January. So anyway, yeah. Okay, so that is it for the Community Caregiving Initiative. We have one last program that we'd like to introduce, and that is a real example of how our donor interests are feeding into our new grant programs, and that's our Senior Programs of Santa Barbara. And to introduce that, our Senior Donor Relations Officer, Jessica Sanchez, is going to come up and share with you more about how that works. So, give us.
Hi everyone, as Celine mentioned, I'm Jessica Sanchez, Senior Donor Relations Officer here in the our Philanthropic Services Department. So I'm really here to give you a brief overview on one of our grant opportunities that is not overseen by our Community Investments Department. So this is a separate grant cycle that is overseen by one of our committee advised funds that is actually under the Santa Barbara Foundation. So this fund is actually overviewed by this group of 7 individuals. It's a committee that put this fund together. So I'm actually going to jump into the page where you can find that grant opportunity. If it goes there. Or maybe not. So give me a second. It's not loaded. Is it going to load? It's not loading. Sorry about that. So just as she's getting it started, so this grant opportunity actually started last year. So the fund was established early last year. The grant cycle opened, so I'm not sure if many of you were aware of that grant cycle that would fit into this category. The first opportunity started at the beginning of 2016. So I can give you, so it's under nonprofits. Yes. There we go. So this, as I mentioned, this grant opportunity is overseen by a committee of 7 individuals that work out of the southern Santa Barbara area. Their focus area is in Santa Barbara, Goleta, and Carpinteria. So they're primarily looking to support organizations that address the needs of senior citizens in these 3 areas. They are offering, last year they had 3 grant opportunities. This year there's only 2. So I'll start off with the first grant opportunity, which is the Senior Programs Express Grant, very similar to our Express grants that are managed by our Community Investments Department. They have 3 opportunities this year. The application is already open on our website, so anybody that fits within this area can go on our website, open the application, and apply. The first deadline date is May 31st. Second, August 31st. the third opportunity is November 30th. So they have a total of about 10,000 to support organizations in this area throughout the year. They do ask for only one grant opportunity to be, or grant application to be submitted to by one organization, not multiple times throughout the year, similar to how the Community Investments Express grant opportunity works. They're looking to grant up to $1,000 to each organization that applies, that fits within this area. And they're really looking to support areas of small projects, short-term opportunities, and sponsorships. So if any of this fits with your organization, feel free to look at this application. Secondly, the second grant opportunity is a programs grant. There's 2 cycles this year. The first deadline date is April 30th. However, the application is already available. So anybody that fits within this area of this grant opportunity, feel free to look at the application. So they're looking to supporting the welfare of senior citizens in the Santa Barbara, Goleta, and Carpenter area again. Any questions about this specific grant cycle? They can contact the primary fund advisor, who is Mary Robles. You can actually find her contact information on the website. Any technical support questions, feel free to give me a call. I'm more than happy to walk you through the application and answer any questions that I can. If for whatever reason you cannot get in contact with Mary Robles, I'm more than happy to connect you guys. So this is pretty much, as I mentioned at the beginning, a grant cycle that is not managed by our Community Investments Department. It is managed by a committee who oversees this here in Santa Barbara. And it is a committee advice fund of the Santa Barbara Foundation. However, the foundation does not have the say of who's being awarded these grants. It's really represented by this committee who reviews the applications. So again, any questions, Mary Robles would be the best person to contact in regards to the criteria. Okay, thank you. And actually, I'm just going to introduce, my colleague Sadie, Special Projects Officer.
Well, before Sadie comes on, I'm going to finish this off. We had our last slide, which was innovation and grant making. And so what this really means, and I'm just going to wrap this up quickly, is Santa Barbara Foundation really is working differently, as the trend is with most foundations, with our grantees. That we really are looking more to you as our partners, our thought leaders, and really the well and source of the trends that are important to our community. So you've heard about our grants, you've heard about our initiatives, you've heard about our nonprofit support. But I think, as Ron mentioned, the idea of growing philanthropic capital is something that we're taking to heart, pulling more donor work in as we can, and Jessica's presentation was an example, and bringing donors into our community grants as well. But we're also looking at ways that we can really stretch the traditional bounds of philanthropy, and we're looking at our own investments and deploying our own resources. So last year, how many of you attended last year? Quite a few of you? Okay. Ron announced at that some bold new ways that we were going to maximize the Foundation's resources for greater community impact. And we talked a little about using unrestricted bequests to the Foundation to create an accelerator award. We also talked about using some of our assets for a loan program, which Amy alluded to a little bit earlier. I wanted to give you an update on that because we did put out a lot to the community. I want to let you know what happened with that and where we are on that. So we did put out a letter of inquiry to the community and said, give us all your ideas. It was a broad net. We really wanted to see what was happening out there, what was shaking, what you were all working on, what you were thinking were the trends that we should be focusing in on as we were looking at how to deploy some resources. And we were asking for innovative approaches, new ways of working. It was, we were really looking for a high bar, big community change efforts. We did actually, from that process, select 3 projects, and some of this we've gotten out a little bit in our information. Maybe you'll be hearing more in the future, but I wanted to just briefly update on kind of close that cycle so you understood what we ended up supporting. So 2 of the projects were really related to access and equity and education on really a community-wide or district-wide scale.
So one example is supporting the PEAK project, which many of you are familiar with that one. It's through the Santa Barbara Unified School District, and they are really looking at creating a access and pathway for students to get successfully through their junior high school, and then ultimately on to college program. We also supported the Santa Barbara City College's Promise program, and I'm sure most of you have heard about that, coming in big as an investor on that one to really ensure that our local students would not have the barrier of that first 2 years of college. They would have free tuition at City College as well as books. So those were the two big access and equity and education programs. They really do tie together, and they really are on this kind of broad community scale. The other one that we, other accelerator award was alignment with our community caregiver initiative. It was an Atlas of Caregiving research project. It really deepens our community caregiver work and our initiative. It really rises it to a national scale. And I think Colleen touched on much of that, but organizations like AARP were co-funders on that. So again, Santa Barbara piloting something that really has national significance. We also provided 2 loan programs this year, and that program is really certainly open to hear what opportunities are, but really looking at financial restructuring and or bridging some gaps in a financial situation. One award went to, or one loan went to the Santa Barbara Center for the Performing Arts, so the Granada, to help them with some financial restructuring, and another went to the IB Youth Projects, who was needing some gap funding. So there, those loans are options, and there's criteria around that. But again, those, I wanted to let you know that we put it out there and we did some good work, and just to say that we learned a lot in that process, and that was really important for us, and we do want to share those learnings, and I know our communications department will continue to share what we learned, what we're seeing, and how we're responding to that, because we can't do everything, and so really what we need to do is now to start to filter and prioritize, align with what we know and what we're doing, but also look for new opportunities. And so if we go out for the Accelerator Award in the future, it may be more specifically targeted to something we really want to identify, or it may be something that we're working on that we want to build off, or some idea we hear about that we really want to dig deeper in. But that's not to say that we're closed to ideas. We are here to listen to any of the ideas you have. We are here to anybody in this organization, whether it's your community investment officer, leadership, somebody in philanthropic services, Ron, somebody on the board. If you have relationships with people, you have in our organization, and you have an idea you'd like us to hear about, please contact any of us. Our role is really to help filter that, see if we can help find direction for you or a path, or just hear what it is and see if there's other alignments we can find with other foundations or other funders. Really, we're open to having conversation and seeing where it can go and helping to direct you. So regardless of who you speak to, we can help all direct you, serve as that hub, and see what we can do with that and see how we can elevate that idea. So with that, I want to just end by saying that really we do believe that meeting together, we will solve community problems. So that's our goal. So now I'd like to introduce Sadie Terry, Social Projects Officer, who is going to take us home. And then we are going to make our deadline.
Hi everyone, I'm Sadie Terry. I'm the Special Projects Officer here, and I promise you I'm the last person to speak today. You can leave after this, you're done. I'm going to teach you guys how to apply today. I have the privilege of working with the entire community investments team, and we've worked really hard on our programs and everything that I'm going to show you today. So I do encourage you to please call. We really are here to help, and we want to form relationships and make sure that you can submit the greatest proposal that we can write. So your first step to applying, you're going to go to our website, sbfoundation.org, and as you can see there are a number of tabs. For this, you are going to go to our nonprofits tab and click how to apply. So this how to apply page will basically be the hub of your entire application process. As you can see, there's information about all of our grant opportunities that you heard today, eligibility criteria, FAQs, as well as the application and submittal procedures. From this page, you'll be able to click more information on grant opportunities to see the list of our programs. So once you find the list of our programs, you can actually select your chosen program for more information. So for this, we're going to use Express Grants as an example. So once you locate the program you're actually looking for, you will be able to find the grant guidelines, the grant application, helpful tips in the case of Express Grants, as well as the application deadline, the award date, and the CIO to contact. I know it can be exciting once you locate all these documents. We ask that you please don't do anything yet, that you go and review our eligibility and FAQs page before you submit anything. That can be done several ways. You can either find it on the drop-down or you can go to the right-hand bar. So this eligibility FAQs page is really an accumulation of all the questions that we received over the last few years. We spent a lot of time putting the answers into this page, so we just ask that you please read over those. I guarantee you'll find information that you would have called about. Before you can actually start your application, there's one more page we ask you to go to, and that's the application and submittal procedures. So this page includes all of the downloading and your application instructions. As Amy mentioned, it also features documents for fiscal sponsorship. So if that applies to you, please make sure you go to this page to download the board roster and the organization financial summary. So before you actually begin the application, we suggest that you download the application and the guidelines to your desktop. So I will show you how you do that. Community grants. Find this. So in order to download it to your desktop, you right-click and then you will save as. It's really important to make sure that this is the guidelines and the application are downloaded to your desktop, just to make sure that all the information that you type will be saved in the browser, or anything you type in the browser will not be saved and will not be read for your application. So anything that you want to submit to us, make sure you download it, save as. And it might ask you to save as a few times. If it does, just make sure, please save as, so then all your information is in there. In addition to, it's also important to note that our text boxes in the application, they are locked for size purposes, so anything that isn't complete in the text box will not be read and will not be considered part of your application. In addition, once you finalize your application, you'll submit it to the grant's email address. Once you submit your application to the email address, you'll receive an automatic receipt reply. Please hold on to the receipt just to make sure that you've successfully submitted. If you haven't received a receipt, either check the grant's email that you've submitted to, please recheck the deadline, and if you feel like you've met both of those, give me a call, I'll track it down. And lastly, if you are awarded a grant, you will be asked to submit a grant report 30 days after you've completed the project and within a maximum of 13 months. So I will show you on the website, you'll be able to go over to grant report forms and you will find the applicable form for your grant program that will be submitted afterwards. So feel free to please give me any questions about technical assistance, anything regarding this application process. Either I will answer your question or I will filter you to a CIO. So thank you guys for listening to all of